Well, there's a childhood rhyme that goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me." Well, now there's a new campaign that takes issue with that. It wants to ban the word bossy when describing strong females. And it's got a lot of high-profile supporters.
This is ban bossy. Take one.
Pushy. Stubborn. Stubborn. Pushy. Pushy. Stubborn. Stubborn. Bossy. 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 Bossy.
When I was growing up, I was called bossy.
I think the word bossy is just a swasher.
Being labeled something matters. By middle school,
Girls are less interested in leadership than boys.
And that's because they worry about being called
Bossy.
We need to tell them it's okay to be ambitious.
we need to help them lean in
words matter.
Let's just ban the word bossy.
and encourage girls to lead.
To be strong and be ambitious.
Listen to your own voice. There are no limits.
Dare to be you.
You can change the world. Let's ban bossy. Be brave. Be you.
Ban bossy.
Okay, Monique Pressley hopefully will join us to talk more about that whole situation with Bossy in a minute. But right now we're going to go to Esther Armagh. She is with an advocacy organization called Emotional Justice Unplugged. Welcome.
Hi there, how you doing?
Fine. Now you have your own campaign to empower girls, and I want to hear more about it. What is it all about?
It's called International Fly Girls Day, and it kicks off March 9th. It goes all the way through to the end of March. Specifically, it's actually about girls and power. Not empowering girls, but girls and power. And one of the things that is really important for black and brown girls in a society that is so much about seeking external affirmation, that it is the outside world that tells you who you are, that talks to you about how to be, how to move within your skin. What we wanted to do young is to start girls thinking about what power means and defining it for themselves. And the ultimate intention is to recognize that sisterhood isn't just crucial, but it is a place where all kinds of things can be created, but from a place of power, not a place of pain. And so often for girls in high schools, in different spaces, pain is the thing that binds them because you have all kinds of issues that they are dealing with around violence, sexual violence, physical violence, and the ways in which their friendships are built, bullying, all those types of issues. And we wanted to transform those spaces.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing and much needed. I'm just wondering if you would agree with me on this, that perhaps we're seeing some headway here with how black women, especially black women that have their full featured and those kinds of things that are portrayed and seen. We're seeing now in Hollywood, Lupita Nyong'o on the scene right now. We're seeing over at another network, I think it's Joy Reid, you know, and they don't look like they have Caucasian type features. It seems to me perhaps, just perhaps, that maybe things may be changing a little bit for women of color.
Well, I think that sometimes pointing to the exceptional case is not necessarily indicative of mass change, because we've always had exceptions.
Understood.
We've always had exceptional moments. No question, there is a beauty and a power in seeing a Lupita Nyong'o. There is a power and beauty in seeing Joy Ann Reid, and that should definitely be applauded. But what I'm talking about is for those girls who are in high school. So one of the examples, we went to Henry Street School of International Studies, and we did an all-girls assembly, and we do this exercise called My Fly Is, and we define fly as power, passion, beauty, and emotionality. And one of the reasons for the clarity of the definition is that beauty is something that matters to girls and women and society and men.
Oh, yes, it does.
But for girls in particular, that beauty is such an external space. And part of My Fly Is, which is part of the diaries that we create with girls, is for them to start to self-define, to be able to look in the mirror and see your own features, as opposed to the ways in which you expect and need the world to define you. And to also see that in one another as women. But we also want to create space for girls to do things around power. So when we did the all-girls assembly, we wanted, for example, we had girls who were like crazy about Beyonce, for example, and then you had girls who were Korean, and then you had girls who were Latina, and then you had girls who were in hijabs, and they all live in their little cliques. What we want them to learn is that there is a power in our connection, but there's also universal things that we face and shape, and we are not as different as we appear.
Hold that thought, Esther. We're going to come back to you. You've just got Monique here. Let's go back to the Ban Bossy campaign. We have attorney Monique Pressley, host of Breathe Through It on WPGR-TV from Washington. Monique, I've got to ask you this question. I'm scratching my head about this one because I come from a pretty progressive household. Why is bossy a bad word?
Well, certainly, Julian, there are worse words than bossy. We know that there's hate speech, and if we were going to talk about banning words, we would probably have a long list. And in this country, we've got free speech at least, so the bossy is not literal. But when you put bossy on girls, and when boys are called leaders instead, when bossy turns into aggressive, aggressive turns into overambitious, ambitious turns into another B word, then there's a problem. So it's what the bossy label does and what it does early on. As your guest just finished saying, we look at girls in elementary school and middle school, and they already are shrinking away from leadership roles. So what you're then doing is having over 50% of our world population who now are afraid to use their voices, who shy away from using them because they don't want to be labeled.
Monique, you got to understand, I'm with you on this. I'm with you, and what Esther was saying is something a little bit different here, but, I've had some, female bosses that have had more testosterone than Hercules. And as far as I'm concerned, bossy for them didn't mean that they were inhuman, they were any less. They were just tough. My mother was tough. She was bossy, but I love her. And so, I guess it's, and I'm all with words. They are very, I wrote a book on the power of words. I'm just not buying this one, though. It just doesn't, it seems like you can empower women with a whole lot of things. And there still needs a lot of work there than just jumping on the word bossy. I'm not feeling this one.
Well, Julian, that's because you didn't have to live as a young black girl growing up in Texas who had, an extra large mouth and something to say and got called bossy. Thank God that I had parents who told me that it was okay to open up my mouth and speak, that I had an opinion and that it was worth hearing, and that if I was wanting to lead, that it was okay, that I didn't have to shrink away from those opportunities. So it's what bossy does with a young girl that isn't the same as what it does with boys, because often it's just a tag that the girls get. So when girls hear that early on, they don't like it and they begin to want to be popular more than they want to be heard. They begin to want to be liked.
Okay, Monique,
more than they want to lead.
Esther here, I'm looking at her from the side here, and she's shaking her head. Obviously, Esther, you would tend to agree with this.
I do, and I think the thing that's important about something like International Flag Girls Day, it's about the ways in which we so often silence parts of our girls. One of the reasons why we make emotionality part of your flyness is that what we want to do is compartmentalize women. We have ideas about quote-unquote well-behaved women, quote-unquote nice girls, quote-unquote bad girls, quote-unquote good girls. And the reality is that those are not whole people. And so what we want to teach girls young is wholeness includes all of you. And we have a section called Scar Stories, which encourages girls to talk about the things that have caused them hurt and harm and pain in order for them to recognize that that is a part of who you are, but it is not a negation of your beauty.
All right, well, I'm not going to raise the white flag of surrender yet with you two, but I will say that...
You're going to surrender, you're just going to listen. I'm just saying.
See, you're being bossy. Here's my point.
No, I'm being clear.
You're being clear and concise.
Clear.
Okay, you're to the point.
Yes.
I guess what I'm saying is, in part, I would agree with the two of you in a sense. I've always been known as a very aggressive interviewer. Right. And as a black male, that sometimes has been mistaken for being arrogant and cocky, where you find a white male anchor or host that's aggressive. He's just assured. He's a self-assured journalist. So I can go with you there. I guess I'm just having a problem with the word bossy. I just don't. I personally don't find it offensive.
So then here's the thing. Forget about the word and let's deal with the issue, because the issue is about the ways in which leadership spaces that require women, because women are 50% of the population, they're from a young age, the idea of power is seen as not feminine, not attractive. Those leadership spaces that require ambition and drive are considered unattractive, and so girls shrink from them. And what we want to do with International Flag Girls Day is teach you that power and smart is sexy, it's fly, it's necessary, and it's part of who you are.
Okay, we have 10 seconds left, Monique. You'll have the last word.
Well, there are more Oprah Winfrey's, Sheryl Sandberg's, Condoleezza Rice's, and First Lady Michelle Obama's out there than have the courage to step forward. So what we do, starting with Bossy and starting with empowering girls, is enable that inner leader to come through.
Okay, I'll have to cut you off here. I guess I'll have to surrender on this. You two have beaten me up anyway, Monique. And thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on Rise Review. Have a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day and a great, great week.